If you're so smart, then translate it. 50 engineers failed. The shy waitress solved it instantly. What began as mockery turned to silence when she decoded the impossible translation. What city are you in? Drop it below and subscribe. Here comes an unforgettable story. The fluorescent lights of Miller's Diner hummed their familiar tune as Maya Torres wiped down table 7 for the third time that evening. At 26, she had perfected the art of being invisible. Keep your head down. Don't make eye contact. Take the orders. Deliver the food. Collect the tips. It was a simple formula that had kept her employed for the past 4 years while she worked her way through night classes at the community college. The dinner rush had finally subsided, leaving only a handful of customers scattered throughout the worn vinyl booths. Maya tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear and glanced at the clock. 7:30. Another 4.5 hours until closing. Her feet already ached in her sensible black shoes, but she couldn't afford to think about that. Not when her father's medical bills kept piling up, each one a reminder that her bachelor's degree in linguistics, earned one painful credit at a time, might never be enough. The bell above the door chimed, and Maya looked up out of habit. 3 men in expensive suits walked in, their presence immediately transforming the modest diner into something that felt too small, too shabby. The man in the center commanded attention without trying. Tall, probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair styled perfectly despite the late hour and a jawline that could have been carved from marble. He moved with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. "Maya, those are yours," her co-worker Jennifer whispered, nodding toward the men as they settled into a corner booth. "And girl, that one in the middle, that's Sebastian Harrington. The Sebastian Harrington. You know, Harrington Tech. The guy's worth billions." Maya's stomach tightened. She didn't follow tech news or billionaire gossip, but even she had heard the name. Harrington Tech had revolutionized translation software, making it possible for businesses to communicate across languages with unprecedented accuracy. Or so they claimed. She grabbed 3 menus and approached the table, her practiced smile in place. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Miller's. Can I start you off with some drinks?" Sebastian Harrington didn't look up from his phone. "Coffee, black." The man to his left, slightly older with graying temples, gave her an apologetic smile. "I'll have the same, please." "Water for me," said the third man, younger with nervous energy radiating from every pore. "I'll have those right out for you." Maya turned to leave, grateful for the dismissal. "Actually," Sebastian's voice stopped her. He still hadn't looked up. "We're going to need this space for a while. Tell your manager we'll compensate him for any lost revenue." Maya blinked. "I'm sorry." Finally, he looked at her. His eyes were an unusual shade of gray, like storm clouds over the ocean, and completely devoid of warmth. "We have business to discuss. Private business. I'm prepared to pay for the inconvenience of clearing the other customers out for the next 2 hours. Heat crept up Maya's neck. "Sir, I can't just ask other paying customers to leave." Then have your manager do it." He returned his attention to his phone, the conversation clearly over in his mind. The older man cleared his throat. "Sebastian, perhaps we could just speak quietly." "I don't do perhaps, Richard. I do solutions." Sebastian's fingers flew across his phone screen. "There. I've just transferred $5,000 to this establishment. That should more than cover it." Maya's hands clenched around the menus. $5,000. That was more than she made in 3 months. The rational part of her brain knew she should get her manager. Let him handle this. But something about Sebastian Harrington's casual arrogance, his assumption that everything and everyone had a price, made her spine straighten. "I'll get your drinks," she said quietly, and walked away before she said something that would get her fired. In the kitchen, her manager, Tom, was already pulling on his jacket. "Maya, did that guy really just Venmo us $5,000? Apparently. Tom's eyes were wide with dollar signs. Well, what are we waiting for? Start clearing the tables. Politely, of course. Offer everyone a free meal to come back tomorrow. Maya felt something twist in her chest, but she nodded. She needed this job. She needed every shift, every tip, every hour. Her father's next round of chemotherapy wasn't going to pay for itself. 20 minutes later, the diner was empty except for the 3 men in the corner booth and Maya, who had been instructed to be their exclusive server for the evening. She delivered their drinks and a basket of breadsticks she hadn't been asked for, then retreated to the counter where she pretended to organize condiment packets while their voices drifted across the empty space. The launch is in 3 weeks, Sebastian was saying, his voice sharp with frustration. 3 weeks, and we still can't get the Portuguese variant to work properly. We've had 50 engineers working on it, Richard replied, the best in the field. Then they're not the best, are they? Sebastian's hand came down on the table hard enough that Maya jumped. I built this company on one promise, perfect translation. Not good enough, not close enough, perfect. And now we're about to launch the biggest update in our history with a glaring flaw that could destroy everything we've built. The younger man spoke up nervously. The problem is the idiom, sir. Portuguese has regional variations that our AI keeps misinterpreting. We've tried every algorithm, every machine learning model. I don't want excuses, Trevor. I want solutions. Sebastian pushed his coffee away, untouched. Show me the problem again. Trevor pulled out a tablet and set it on the table. Even from across the diner, Maya could see lines of text and code filling the screen. She shouldn't be listening. She should go to the back, give them privacy, but her feet wouldn't move, because she could see the text on that screen, could see the Portuguese phrases that were giving them trouble, and she knew exactly what the problem was. See, right here, Trevor was explaining, the phrase dar comos burros nagua. Does, our system translates it literally as to give with the donkeys in the water, but that's obviously wrong. The actual meaning is to fail at something, to have plans fall through. But we can't get the AI to understand the contextual difference between this and similar phrases that should be translated literally. Sebastian's jaw tightened. How is this possible? We've mapped thousands of idioms. Portuguese is particularly tricky, sir. The same phrase can mean different things depending on region, context, formality level. I don't need a linguistics lesson, Sebastian snapped. I need this fixed. Maya's fingers had gone numb around the ketchup bottle she was holding. She had written her senior thesis on Portuguese idiomatic expressions and their translation challenges. She had spent 6 months researching this exact problem. But there was no way she was going to insert herself into a conversation between billionaires and engineers. She was a waitress. She was invisible. Maybe we should delay the launch, Richard suggested carefully. Absolutely not. Sebastian's voice was ice. We delay, and Chen Tech will beat us to market with their inferior product. We'll lose the contract with the EU, and that's a $300 million deal. Then what do you suggest? Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood abruptly. I suggest we all get some sleep and come back at this with fresh eyes tomorrow. This is unacceptable, but we will fix it. We always do. The men began gathering their things. Maya busied herself wiping down a counter that was already clean, keeping her eyes down as they approached. Sebastian stopped directly in front of her. The coffee was cold. Maya looked up, startled. I'm sorry, sir. Would you like me to? No. He pulled out his wallet and dropped $100 bill on the counter. For your trouble. It was the dismissal in his tone, more than the money, that made something snap inside her. Here was a man who threw around money like it was nothing, who had just paid $5,000 to inconvenience everyone in the diner, who was about to walk away from a problem that she could solve in 5 minutes because he couldn't imagine that a shy waitress might have something valuable to offer. It's the context markers, she heard herself say. Sebastian had already turned toward the door. He paused. then slowly turned back. "Excuse me?" Maya's heart was hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs, but she'd started now. "Your translation problem with the Portuguese idioms. You need to program in socio-linguistic context markers, not just semantic ones." The diner had gone completely silent, Sebastian's grey eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her want to disappear into the floor. "And you are?" "Nobody." The word came out smaller than she'd intended. "I'm nobody. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have been listening." "No, you shouldn't have." He took a step closer, and Maya could smell his cologne, something expensive and understated. "But now that you have been, why don't you explain to me what you think you know about my $50 million problem?" "Nothing." There was challenge in his voice, and mockery, and something else Maya couldn't quite name. She should back down, she should apologize and let him leave. But she thought about her father, about the bills, about the years she'd spent studying while her classmates were out having fun, about the degree she'd earned that seemed to qualify her for nothing more than serving coffee to people who didn't even see her. "Portuguese idiomatic expressions rely heavily on social context," she said, her voice gaining strength. "The phrase, dar como burros na água, means different things in Portugal versus Brazil, in formal versus informal settings, in written versus spoken language. Your AI is probably trying to create universal rules, but there aren't any. You need to teach it to read social cues first, then apply the appropriate interpretation." Sebastian's expression hadn't changed. Social cues. "Yes, like you would in a conversation. Is this a business email or a text between friends? Is the speaker educated or using colloquial language? What's the age demographic? Once you establish those parameters, the correct translation becomes obvious." Obvious. The word dripped with sarcasm. 50 of the best engineers in the country have been working on this for 6 months, but it's obvious. Maya's cheeks burned. "I didn't mean, if you're so smart," Sebastian interrupted, his voice cutting, "then translate it." "I'm sorry." He pulled the tablet from Trevor's hands and thrust it at Maya. "You clearly think you understand the problem better than my team of experts, so prove it. Translate these phrases, all of them, right now." Maya's hands shook as she took the tablet. There were at least 20 phrases displayed, each with multiple failed translation attempts beneath them. This was insane. She should give it back, apologize, let him leave thinking she was just another person talking about things she didn't understand. But then she looked at the first phrase. "Quem não tem cão, caça com gato." Who doesn't have a dog hunts with a cat. Her fingers moved across the screen before she could stop them. "It means, make do with what you have," she said. But the tone varies. In Brazil, especially in rural areas, it's often said with humor. In Portugal, more matter-of-fact. In a business context, it might be used sarcastically. She scrolled to the next one. This one, "Agua mole em pedra dura, tanto bate até que fura." Soft water on hard stone beats until it pierces through. It means persistence pays off, but it's more formal, often used in written Portuguese from Portugal, less common in casual Brazilian speech. She kept going, her initial nervousness fading as she fell into the familiar rhythm of analysis. Each phrase unlocked something in her brain, years of study clicking into place. She barely noticed that Sebastian had moved to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "This is the one that was giving you the most trouble," she said, pointing to "dar como burros na água." Your AI is reading it as a standalone phrase, but it's almost never used that way. It's usually part of a larger expression of frustration or disappointment. The word choice around it tells you how to translate it. If someone says, "Depois de tanto esforço, demos como os burros na água," the "depois de tanto esforço," after so much effort, tells you it's about failure despite trying hard. But if someone says, Como eu imaginava, demos como os burros nagua. As I imagined, it's more about confirmed expectations of failure. She looked up and found Sebastian staring at her with an expression she couldn't decipher. The mockery was gone, replaced by something sharp and calculating. "How long did that take you?" he asked quietly. Maya glanced at the clock. "About 4 minutes." 4 minutes. Sebastian took the tablet from her hands, his fingers brushing against hers for a brief moment. He scrolled through her annotations, his jaw working. "Trevor, did she get them right?" The younger man had gone pale. "I'd need to verify with the team, but yes, sir. From what I can see, her interpretations are spot on, and the contextual framework she suggested." He trailed off, shaking his head in disbelief. Sebastian's gaze returned to Maya, and this time she saw something dangerous in those grey eyes. Interest. "What's your name?" "Maya Torres." "Where did you study, Maya Torres?" "Hudson Community College." She saw something flicker across his face. Disappointment, dismissal. "I know it's not MIT or Stanford, but what did you study?" "Linguistics. I graduated last year with a focus on Romance languages and translation theory. And now you're working here." It wasn't a question. Maya lifted her chin. "My father is sick. Medical bills don't pay themselves, and linguistics degrees don't exactly lead to six-figure job offers." "No," Sebastian agreed. "They don't, unless you work for me." The world seemed to tilt sideways. "What?" "I'm offering you a job, Miss Torres, lead consultant on the Portuguese translation project. 75,000 to start, with performance bonuses if we launch on time." He pulled a business card from his wallet and held it out. "My office, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. sharp." Maya stared at the card like it might bite her. "You can't be serious." "I'm always serious about business. You just solved in 4 minutes what 50 engineers couldn't solve in 6 months. That's either luck or you're exactly the kind of unconventional thinking this project needs." His lips quirked in something that might have been a smile on anyone else. "I'm betting on the latter. But I don't know anything about software development or AI. I have engineers for that. What I need is someone who understands language the way humans actually use it, not the way machines think they should." He took her hand and pressed the card into her palm, his skin warm against hers. 8 a.m., Miss Torres. Don't be late. I don't give second chances." Then he was gone, sweeping out of the diner with Richard and Trevor scrambling to follow. Maya stood frozen, the business card burning in her hand like a live coal. Jennifer emerged from the kitchen where she'd apparently been watching the whole thing. "Girl, did that just happen? Did Sebastian Harrington just offer you a job?" Maya looked down at the card, embossed lettering, heavy cardstock, an address in downtown Seattle that she recognized as one of the most expensive buildings in the city. "I think so. Are you going to go?" "I don't know. This is crazy. I'm a waitress. I can't just—" "Yes, you can." Jennifer grabbed her shoulders. "Maya, do you know how much money $75,000 is? That's more than both of us make here in a year combined. This could change everything for you and your dad." Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from the hospital. "Your father's next treatment is scheduled for Thursday. Please confirm payment arrangements." She looked at the business card again, at the $100 bill, still sitting on the counter, where Sebastian Harrington had left it with such casual dismissal. "If you're so smart, then translate it," he'd said. Not because he believed she could, but because he'd been so certain she would fail. She'd proven him wrong. Maybe it was time to stop being invisible. "I'm going," she said, and felt something shift in her chest. Fear, maybe, or possibility. God help me, I'm going. Maya had imagined that Harrington Tech's headquarters would be impressive, but nothing prepared her for the reality of the 60-story glass tower that pierced the Seattle skyline like a shard of ice. She stood on the sidewalk at 7:45 in the morning, clutching her worn messenger bag and trying not to feel like an imposter in her only professional outfit, a black pencil skirt and white blouse that had seen better days. The lobby was all marble and chrome, with a ceiling that soared 3 stories high. A massive abstract sculpture dominated the center of the space, something that looked like interconnected globes, representing different languages of the world. Maya approached the reception desk, where a woman with perfect hair and a perfect smile looked up at her. "Can I help you?" "I have an appointment with Mr. Harrington at 8. "Do you?" The receptionist's smile didn't waver, but Maya saw the flicker of assessment in her eyes. "Your name?" "Maya Torres." There was a pause while the woman checked her computer, and Maya saw her eyebrows rise slightly. "Of course, Miss Torres. Mr. Harrington is expecting you. 60th floor. Take the executive elevator on the right." The elevator was made of glass, and Maya's stomach dropped as it shot upward, the city shrinking below her. She closed her eyes and focused on breathing. "You can do this. You solved their problem in 4 minutes. You earned this." The 60th floor was quieter than she'd expected. Thick carpet muffled every sound. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Puget Sound and the Olympic Mountains beyond. A woman in her 50s, elegant in a navy suit, rose from a desk as Maya stepped out of the elevator. "Miss Torres, I'm Helen. Mr. Harrington's executive assistant, right on time. He appreciates punctuality." There was approval in her tone. "Follow me, please." They walked down a hallway, lined with framed patents and awards. Maya caught glimpses of Sebastian's name over and over. Innovator of the Year, Technology Pioneer, youngest self-made billionaire in translation software. Each accolade felt like a reminder of the vast distance between them. Helen paused outside a set of double doors. "A word of advice? Mr. Harrington values directness and competence above all else. Don't apologize unless you've actually done something wrong, and never waste his time with small talk." Before Maya could respond, Helen opened the doors and gestured her inside. Sebastian's office was enormous, dominated by a massive desk that looked like it had been carved from a single piece of black walnut. But Sebastian wasn't behind it. He stood by the windows, phone pressed to his ear, his back to the room. He wore a charcoal grey suit that probably cost more than Maya's car, and even from behind, he radiated the same intense focus she'd witnessed at the diner. "I don't care if he's the Minister of Trade," Sebastian was saying, his voice cold. "If he can't make the meeting time work, we'll find someone else who will. The EU doesn't get special treatment just because they think they're doing us a favor." He listened for a moment. "Then make him understand. I'll expect confirmation within the hour." He ended the call and turned, his grey eyes finding Maya immediately. "Miss Torres, you came. You offered me a job. People turn down jobs all the time, especially ones that probably seem too good to be true." He gestured to one of the leather chairs facing his desk. "Sit." Maya sat, trying not to feel like she was about to be interrogated. Sebastian moved behind his desk, but didn't sit. Instead, he leaned against it, arms crossed, studying her with that same calculating intensity from the night before. "I had my team verify your translations last night," he said. "They were perfect, not just accurate, but nuanced in a way that none of our previous attempts achieved. Thank you." It wasn't a compliment. It was a statement of fact. He reached for a tablet on his desk. "However, I also had my HR department run a background check. Standard procedure for all new hires." Maya's stomach tightened. And you're exactly who you said you were." Maya Catherine Torres, 26 years old, graduated summa cum laude from Hudson Community College with a degree in linguistics. "Your professors describe you as brilliant but quiet, the kind of student who does exceptional work but never speaks up in class." His eyes flicked up from the tablet. "Sound familiar?" Heat crept up Maya's neck. I prefer to let my work speak for itself. Yet last night you spoke up. Why? The question caught her off guard. I don't know. You were so certain I couldn't do it. I wanted to prove you wrong. Something that might have been amusement crossed his face. You don't like being underestimated. Does anyone? No, but most people don't have the courage to do anything about it. He set the tablet down. Your background check also revealed that your father, Daniel Torres, is currently undergoing treatment for stage 3 colon cancer at Harborview Medical Center. The bills are substantial. You have no other family, no trust fund, no financial safety net. This job isn't just an opportunity for you, it's a lifeline. Maya's hands clenched in her lap. Is there a point to this invasion of my privacy? Yes, I need to know that you're committed. This project launches in 3 weeks. That means long hours, weekend work, intense pressure. I need to know you won't walk away the moment things get difficult. I won't. How can I be sure? Maya met his gaze, refusing to look away, even though every instinct told her to. Because I've been working 2 jobs while going to school full-time for the past 4 years. Because I've sat in hospital waiting rooms doing homework at 3 in the morning. Because I know what it means to need something so badly that failure isn't an option. You want commitment? I wrote my thesis while my father was in the ICU, Mr. Harrington. I think I can handle a deadline. Silence stretched between them, then Sebastian smiled. It was a small expression, barely there, but it transformed his face from austere to almost handsome. Good. Because the team you'll be working with is going to hate you. Maya blinked. Excuse me. You're young. You have no tech industry experience, and you just solved a problem that made 50 engineers look incompetent. They're going to resent you, question you, test you at every opportunity. He pushed off from the desk and moved to stand directly in front of her. Can you handle that? Maya thought about every time she'd been invisible, every time someone had looked through her instead of at her, every time she'd been dismissed because she was quiet or young or just a waitress. Yes. Then let's go meet them. He strode toward the door without waiting to see if she'd follow. Maya scrambled to keep up, her shorter legs working double time to match his pace. They took the elevator down 2 floors and emerged into an open workspace that buzzed with activity. Dozens of people sat at sleek desks with multiple monitors, fingers flying over keyboards, voices calling out to each other in a language of code and algorithms that Maya barely understood. Sebastian walked through the chaos like Moses parting the Red Sea, people stepping aside, conversations dying mid-sentence as he passed. He led her to a glass-walled conference room where Trevor, from the night before, sat with 5 other people, all of them looking exhausted. "Morning briefing," Sebastian announced as he entered, Maya trailing behind him. "I trust you've all recovered from last night's embarrassment." Trevor winced. "Sir, we've been running the new contextual parameters through the system. Initial results are promising, but we're encountering some integration issues, which is why I've brought in our new lead consultant on the Portuguese translation project." Sebastian gestured to Maya. "Maya Torres, meet the team. Or rather, meet the people who are going to help you fix their mistakes." 6 pairs of eyes turned to Maya, and she saw it immediately. The skepticism, the resentment, the disbelief. A woman with bright red hair and multiple piercings leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. "You're kidding, right? She's the expert. Dr. Chen, Miss Torres solved in 4 minutes what you haven't managed in 6 months. I'd say that makes her expert enough." Sebastian's voice carried a warning edge. "She starts today. Trevor, get her set up with a workstation and access to all relevant files. The rest of you will provide whatever support she needs." "Nay, but she's not even an engineer," another man protested. "How is she supposed to—" "She's not supposed to engineer anything. That's your job. Her job is to teach you how language actually works, so you can stop making educated guesses and start building solutions." Sebastian checked his watch. I have a conference call in 5 minutes. Maya, you'll report directly to me with daily progress updates, 5 p.m. in my office. Don't be late. Then he was gone again, leaving Maya alone with 6 people who looked like they wanted to murder her. The silence was suffocating. Finally, Trevor stood and offered a weak smile. Welcome to the team. I'll show you to your desk. As Maya followed him out of the conference room, she heard Dr. Chen's voice carrying through the glass. This is insane. She's probably some girl he picked up at a bar who speaks a little Portuguese. Actually, I picked her up at a diner. Sebastian's voice cut through, and Maya realized he hadn't left after all. He stood in the doorway, his expression glacial. And if any of you have a problem with my hiring decisions, you're welcome to submit your resignation. Otherwise, I suggest you start acting like the professionals I'm paying you to be. Maya kept walking, her face burning, but inside something fierce and bright was unfurling. He defended her. Sebastian Harrington, who barely knew her, who had every reason to side with his established team, had defended her. Trevor led her to a desk near the windows with a brand new computer already set up. Sorry about all that. Dr. Chen can be intense. But she's brilliant, really. They all are. This project just has everyone on edge. I understand. Maya set down her bag. I'm not here to replace anyone. I just want to help. I know. And for what it's worth, what you did last night, that was incredible. I've been working on this problem for months, and you made it seem so obvious. He pulled up a chair. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why linguistics? I mean, it's not exactly a lucrative field. Maya smiled sadly. My mother was Brazilian. She died when I was 10. But before that, she used to tell me stories in Portuguese. I didn't understand most of them, but I loved the way the language sounded. After she was gone, I started studying it so I could read her favorite books, understand the songs she used to sing. She touched the computer screen where lines of code waited. Language is how we connect to each other, how we preserve memory, how we bridge impossible distances. I think that's worth studying, even if it doesn't make me rich. Trevor was quiet for a moment. Sebastian's going to love you. What? Nothing. I'll get you logged in. The day passed in a blur of introductions, system walkthroughs, and technical explanations that mostly went over Maya's head. But when they showed her the actual language databases, the pattern recognition algorithms, the failed translation attempts, everything clicked into place. This was just linguistics on a massive scale, and linguistics she understood. By 5 o'clock, she had filled 3 notebooks with observations and suggestions. She gathered them nervously and took the elevator back to the 60th floor, where Helen waved her through to Sebastian's office without a word. He was on the phone again, but he gestured for her to sit. Maya perched on the edge of the chair and tried not to eavesdrop on what sounded like a tense negotiation in rapid French. She was so focused on not listening that she didn't notice when he ended the call. "You speak French?" he asked. Maya startled. "Some, not as well as Portuguese or Spanish. Your file said you speak 5 languages fluently." 6, actually. The file probably missed Mandarin. I'm still working on my tones, but I can read and write it fairly well. Sebastian leaned back in his chair, studying her again with that intensity that made her want to squirm. How did someone working double shifts as a waitress find time to learn 6 languages? You'd be surprised how much free time you have when you don't have a social life. The words came out more bitter than she'd intended. "Sorry, I didn't mean—" "Don't apologize for facts. It's a waste of time." He nodded to her notebooks. "What did you learn today?" Maya opened the first notebook, grateful for familiar ground. "Your system is incredibly sophisticated, but it's built on a fundamental misunderstanding of how humans process language. You're trying to teach the AI to translate like a machine when you should be teaching it to translate like a person. Explain." She did, walking him through her observations, the patterns she'd noticed, the solutions she thought might work. Sebastian listened without interrupting, his fingers steepled under his chin, his focus absolute. It was unnerving, being the subject of such complete attention. Maya was used to being overlooked, dismissed. This felt like being examined under a microscope. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You're right." "I'm sorry?" "You're right. We've been approaching this backwards. I built this company on the idea that machines could do translation better than humans because they're faster, more consistent, less subjective. But that's exactly why we keep failing on the nuanced stuff. Translation isn't just about accuracy, it's about intention." "Yes, exactly." Maya felt a surge of excitement. Language is inherently human. You can't remove that element without losing something essential. Sebastian's eyes gleamed with something dangerous. "Can you have a proposal ready by Monday? Full framework for how we restructure the algorithm to incorporate your approach?" "I'll try, but I don't know if—" "Monday, Miss Torres. If this works the way I think it will, we're not just fixing the Portuguese problem, we're revolutionizing the entire platform." He stood, signaling the end of the meeting. "You'll have full access to any resources you need. Work from home if it helps. Just get me that proposal." Maya stood, clutching her notebooks. "Mr. Harrington, I have to ask, why are you trusting me with this? You barely know me. I trust results, Miss Torres. You've given me more viable solutions in one day than my entire team managed in 6 months. That's all I need to know." He walked her to the door, and Maya was acutely aware of how tall he was, how close they were standing. "Besides, you have something my engineers don't." "What's that?" "Hunger. You need this to work. That makes you dangerous in all the right ways." He opened the door. "Have a good evening, Maya. I'll see you Monday with solutions." It wasn't until she was back on the elevator that Maya realized he'd used her first name. The weekend disappeared in a blur of coffee, notes, and barely touched meals. Maya worked at her father's bedside in the hospital, her laptop balanced on her knees, while machines beeped their steady rhythm around them. Daniel Torres was sleeping more these days, the chemotherapy leaving him weak and grey. But when he was awake, he watched her work with quiet pride. "Important project?" he asked on Sunday afternoon, his voice raspy. Maya looked up from her screen, where she'd been mapping out a framework for contextual language processing. "Very. If I can pull this off, Dad, it could change everything for us." "You'll pull it off. You always do." He reached for her hand, his grip weak but warm. "You got your mother's gift for languages. She could make anyone feel understood, no matter where they came from." Tears pricked at Maya's eyes. "I wish she could see this." "She can, and she's proud." He squeezed her hand. "Don't work too hard, Minophilia. Success means nothing if you lose yourself getting there." But Maya couldn't afford that luxury. By Sunday night, she had a 40-page proposal that she'd rewritten 3 times, complete with diagrams, examples, and a step-by-step implementation plan. It was the best work she'd ever done, and she was terrified it wouldn't be good enough. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Maya dressed carefully in a new outfit she'd splurged on over the weekend, a simple navy dress that made her look more professional than she felt. She arrived at Harrington Tech at 7:30, her proposal printed and bound, her hands shaking slightly as she rode the elevator to the 60th floor. Helen looked up in surprise. "Miss Torres, you're early. Mr. Harrington doesn't usually arrive until 8. I wanted to review my notes one more time." Maya gestured to the waiting area. "May I?" "Of course." She'd barely sat down when the elevator doors opened and Sebastian strode out, looking annoyingly perfect in a navy suit that probably cost more than her car. He stopped when he saw her, one eyebrow rising. "You're here early." "I wanted to be prepared." Something flickered in his eyes. Approval, maybe. "Good. Come in. I have 20 minutes before my first meeting." Maya followed him into his office, clutching her proposal like a lifeline. Sebastian went straight to the coffee maker built into a sleek cabinet along one wall. "Coffee?" he asked. "Yes, please. Black. You remembered how I take mine. You only ordered it once, but yes." He made 2 cups and handed her one, then settled into the chair next to hers rather than behind his desk. The casual intimacy of it threw her off balance. "Show me what you have." Maya opened her proposal with trembling fingers and began to explain. Sebastian listened with that same absolute focus, occasionally asking questions that showed he understood not just the surface of what she was saying, but the deeper implications. 20 minutes turned into 40, then an hour. At some point, Helen knocked gently to remind him of his meeting, and he waved her off without looking away from Maya's diagrams. "This is revolutionary," he said finally, sitting back. "You're not just suggesting we fix the Portuguese problem. You're proposing we completely rebuild how the AI learns language. I know it's a lot and we don't have much time, but I think if we can implement even a simplified version of this framework, we're implementing the full version." Maya blinked. "But that would take months, maybe longer. The launch is in 3 weeks. Then we delay the launch. You said we couldn't delay. The EU contract will still be there in 3 months. But if we launch now with a half measure, we'll have wasted our opportunity to truly revolutionize the industry." Sebastian stood and began pacing, his energy electric. "You've just handed me the blueprint for making Harrington Tech the undisputed leader in translation technology for the next decade. I'm not going to rush it." Maya felt dizzy. "You're serious." "I'm always serious about business." He turned to face her. "But here's the problem. This framework requires someone who understands both the linguistics and the engineering, someone who can bridge the gap between your vision and the team's implementation. I can work with Trevor and Dr. Chen." "No. They'll fight you every step of the way because they can't see past their own expertise." Sebastian crossed his arms, studying her. "You need someone who trusts your instincts completely, someone who can translate your ideas into code without losing the nuance. Do you have someone in mind?" "Yes, me." Maya stared at him. "You?" "I built this company from nothing, Miss Torres. I can code circles around most of my engineers. I just don't usually have the time." He smiled, and it was sharp and dangerous. "But for this, I'll make time." "You want to work with me directly? Is that a problem?" "Yes," Maya wanted to say. "It's a huge problem, because you're intimidating and brilliant, and I can barely think straight when you're in the same room." But instead she said, "No problem." "Good. Clear your schedule. For the next 3 months, you and I are going to be joined at the hip. We'll work here during the day with the team, but the real work happens after hours, just us." He checked his watch. "I have meetings all day, but meet me back here at 6. We'll order dinner and start mapping out the technical architecture." "Ooh," Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. Sebastian walked to his desk and pressed a button. "Helen, clear my calendar for this evening. Actually, clear my evenings for the foreseeable future. And have HR process a salary adjustment for Miss Torres. She's now Senior Linguistic Architect, bumper to 120,000. Maya's coffee cup slipped from her fingers. It hit the floor but didn't break, coffee spreading across the expensive carpet. "I'm so sorry." Sebastian was already there with a towel, cleaning it up with an efficiency that suggested he'd done this before. "It's just coffee, Maya, and just carpet, both replaceable." He looked up at her from where he crouched on the floor. "Are you all right? You went pale." "You just gave me a $45,000 raise." "No, I gave you the salary you're worth. There's a difference." He stood, tossing the towel aside. "Don't undervalue yourself. It's unbecoming." The day passed in a strange haze. Maya worked with the team, explaining her framework, fielding questions and skepticism in equal measure. Dr. Chen remained hostile, but Trevor was enthusiastically on board, and the others slowly came around as they began to see the potential of what she was proposing. At 6 o'clock, Maya returned to Sebastian's office with her laptop and notes. He'd already ordered dinner from what looked like an expensive Thai restaurant, the food spread out on the coffee table in front of a leather couch. "I didn't know what you liked, so I got several things," he said, loosening his tie. "Sit, eat, then we work." It was surreal, sitting on a billionaire's couch eating pad thai while discussing linguistic algorithms. But somewhere between the food and the work, Maya felt herself relaxing. Sebastian was different in this setting, less the cold CEO and more the passionate technologist who had built an empire from an idea. He got excited about elegant solutions, frustrated with inefficient code, and occasionally made jokes so dry it took Maya a moment to realize he was kidding. "You're not what I expected," she said around midnight, when they were both bleary-eyed and running on caffeine. Sebastian looked up from his laptop. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone more. Corporate. Distant. You bought out a diner full of people without blinking. That was business. This is also business, but it's business I actually care about." He set his laptop aside. "Most of what I do as CEO is managing people and money. Important but not particularly interesting. This, building something new, solving impossible problems, this is why I started this company." "Why translation software specifically?" He was quiet for a moment, and Maya thought he might not answer. Then he said, "My mother was Japanese. She came to the US for graduate school and met my father, who was American. She was brilliant, but she always struggled with English idioms, professional terminology. I watched her get passed over for opportunities because people assumed her language barriers meant she wasn't as capable." His jaw tightened. "She died when I was 15, brain aneurysm, completely unexpected. And I remember thinking that she'd spent so much of her life fighting to be understood when she should have been celebrated for everything she knew. I wanted to build something that would make that fight unnecessary for others." Maya's throat tightened. "My mother was Brazilian. She died when I was 10. Sebastian's eyes met hers, and something passed between them, understanding, recognition, the shared knowledge of loss and the drive it created. "Is that why you studied linguistics?" he asked quietly. "Yes. I wanted to hold on to her somehow. Language was all I had left. Language and memory." Sebastian stood and moved to the windows, looking out over the city lights. "Maybe that's why your proposal resonated so strongly. You understand that translation isn't just about converting words, it's about preserving intention, context, humanity." Maya joined him at the window, drawn by something she couldn't name. "That's exactly what it is." They stood in silence, shoulders nearly touching, the city spread out below them like a sea of stars. Maya was acutely aware of his presence, the warmth radiating from his body, the subtle scent of his cologne mixed with coffee and the late hour. "We should call it a night," Sebastian said, but he didn't move. "You must be exhausted." "I am, but I don't want to stop." He turned to look at her, and Maya saw something in his expression that made her breath catch. "Neither do I." The moment stretched, charged with possibility. Then Sebastian's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. He glanced at it and frowned. "Hospital? At this hour?" Maya's heart stopped. "I need to take this." She stepped away, her hands shaking as she answered. "Hello? Miss Torres? This is Harborview Medical Center. Your father has taken a turn. You should come right away." The world tilted. Maya was vaguely aware of Sebastian watching her, of her own voice saying she'd be there soon, of her hands fumbling to gather her things. "What happened?" Sebastian asked. "My father. I have to go." "I'll drive you." "No, you don't have to." "Maya." He was already grabbing his jacket. "I'm driving you. Don't argue." She didn't have the strength to argue. They rode the elevator in silence, and then Sebastian was guiding her to a sleek black car in the executive parking garage. He drove fast but safely, navigating the late-night streets with the same focused efficiency he brought to everything. "He's going to be okay," Maya whispered, more to herself than to Sebastian. "When did he start treatment?" 6 months ago, stage 3 colon cancer. The doctor said he had a good chance, but the chemo has been hard on him." Sebastian's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "My mother's death was sudden. I didn't get to say goodbye. You having this time with him, even though it's difficult, that's a gift." Maya looked at him, seeing past the CEO to the 15-year-old boy who'd lost his mother. "I'm sorry. Don't be. Just be there for him. Everything else can wait." They arrived at the hospital in 20 minutes. Sebastian parked in the emergency bay, ignoring the no parking signs. "Go. I'll handle this." Maya ran inside, her heart in her throat. A nurse directed her to the ICU, where her father lay surrounded by machines, his skin grey against the white sheets. But his eyes opened when she entered, and he managed a weak smile. "There's my brilliant girl." "Dad." Maya took his hand, tears streaming down her face. "What happened?" "Just a little setback. You know me, always dramatic." His breathing was labored. "Were you working? You should be resting." "I was with Sebastian Harrington. We're rebuilding the entire translation framework." Pride shone in her father's eyes. "Of course you are. You're going to change the world, minha filha. I'm going to take care of you. That's what matters. You're already taking care of me. With this job, the salary, I can actually get the treatment I need without you killing yourself working 3 jobs." He squeezed her hand. "Let me be proud of you. Let me see you succeed before." "Don't!" Maya's voice broke. "Don't talk like that." A knock at the door made them both turn. Sebastian stood in the doorway, looking uncertain in a way Maya had never seen. "I'm sorry to intrude. I wanted to make sure everything was all right." Daniel Torres studied him with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "You're the billionaire who hired my daughter. I am Sebastian Harrington, Daniel Torres. And you drove my daughter here at midnight because she was upset and shouldn't drive." Daniel's eyes moved between them. "Maya, give us a moment." "Dad, please." Maya stepped into the hallway reluctantly, trying not to imagine what her father was saying. 5 minutes later, Sebastian emerged, his expression unreadable. "What did he say?" Maya asked. "He asked me if my intentions toward you were honorable." Maya's face flamed. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." "Don't be. I told him the truth, that you're the most brilliant person I've worked with, and I have no intention of letting you slip away." Sebastian's grey eyes held hers. Professionally speaking, the qualifier felt like an afterthought, but Maya didn't have the energy to analyze it. "Thank you for bringing me here. I'll wait until you're ready to leave." "You don't have to." "Maya, I'm waiting." He settled into an uncomfortable plastic chair in the hallway, pulled out his phone, and began working. Maya returned to her father's bedside, but she could feel Sebastian's presence like a tether, solid, dependable, unexpected. The next 6 weeks blurred together in a haze of code, coffee, and late nights in Sebastian's office. Daniel stabilized, his doctors cautiously optimistic about a new treatment protocol that Harrington Tech's excellent insurance made possible. And the project consumed everything else. Maya fell into a rhythm she'd never experienced before. Days were spent with the team, implementing her linguistic framework piece by painstaking piece. Doctor. Chen slowly thawed from hostile to grudgingly respectful as the system began producing results that exceeded even their most optimistic projections. Trevor became a genuine friend, someone who understood the unique pressure of working directly with Sebastian. But the nights were when the real magic happened. Just Maya and Sebastian in his office. the city lights twinkling below them, working in a synchronicity that felt almost telepathic. He would write code while she refined linguistic parameters, and somehow they always seemed to know what the other needed before they asked. "Try the informal Brazilian variant," Maya would say, and Sebastian's fingers would already be flying across the keyboard. "We need a contextual marker for professional versus casual," Sebastian would mutter. And Maya would have 3 examples ready before he finished the sentence. They worked well past midnight most nights. Sometimes Sebastian would order food, expensive meals from restaurants Maya had only read about, and they would eat while debating the finer points of idiomatic translation. Other times they forgot to eat entirely, too absorbed in solving whatever problem had emerged that day. Maya learned things about him in those long hours. That he took his coffee black not because he liked it, but because his mother had taught him never to mask the true flavor of things. That he'd taught himself to code at 12, building his first translation program to help his mother with her work. That he had a photographic memory for conversations but couldn't remember faces, which was why he sometimes seemed cold at company events. And Sebastian learned about her. About the scholarship she'd lost when her mother died, forcing her to go to community college instead of the university she'd dreamed of. About the guilty relief she'd felt when she finally graduated and could focus on earning money instead of grades. About her secret dream of writing a book on linguistic anthropology that she'd never told anyone because it seemed too impractical. "It's not impractical," Sebastian said one night, when Maya had let that confession slip after her 3rd cup of coffee. "It's ambitious. There's a difference," says the billionaire. Says the woman who's revolutionizing an entire industry with an idea she came up with while serving coffee. He looked at her over his laptop screen. "Don't diminish what you're accomplishing, Maya. This framework you've built, it's going to change how the world communicates. That's not nothing." Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. "We built it. I couldn't have done this without you. Partners, then. Partners." Something shifted in the air between them when she said it, something electric and dangerous. They'd been dancing around it for weeks, this growing awareness. The way their hands would brush when reaching for the same document. The way Sebastian's eyes would linger on her when he thought she wasn't looking. The way Maya's heart would race when he stood close enough that she could feel his warmth. It was Trevor who finally called it out. "You know everyone's talking about it, right?" he said one afternoon when Maya was debugging a particularly stubborn algorithm. "Talking about what?" "You and Sebastian. The amount of time you're spending together. The way he looks at you during team meetings like you're the only person in the room." Trevor lowered his voice. "I've worked here for 3 years, Maya. I've never seen him like this with anyone. We're working on a complex project. Of course we spend a lot of time together." "Sure, that's definitely all it is." Trevor's expression was knowing. "Just be careful, okay? Sebastian is brilliant, but he's also intense. When he focuses on something, he doesn't do anything halfway, and right now, he's very focused on you." Maya tried to ignore the flutter in her stomach. "It's professional, if you say so." But that night, alone in Sebastian's office at 10 p.m., while he was on a call in the conference room, Maya let herself acknowledge what she'd been trying to deny. She was falling for him. Maybe had been since that first night in the diner, when he'd looked at her like she was a puzzle worth solving rather than just another invisible waitress. It was impossible, of course. He was Sebastian Harrington, billionaire CEO, and she was Maya Torres, the woman who'd been serving coffee 2 months ago. They existed in different worlds, their current partnership a temporary bridge that would dissolve once the project was complete. The door opened, and Sebastian walked in, loosening his tie with one hand while scrolling through his phone with the other. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes that matched her own. "That was the EU," he said. "They've heard rumors about the new framework. They want a demonstration." Maya's pulse quickened. "Already? We're not ready." We will be. I told them we'd present in 2 weeks." He tossed his phone on the desk and moved to stand beside her, looking at the code on her screen. This looks good. The contextual layering is exactly what we need. He was close enough that Maya could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive. Close enough that she could see the faint scar on his jawline she'd never noticed before. "How did you get that?" she asked, surprising herself by reaching up to touch it. Sebastian went very still. "The scar? Yes. I got into a fight when I was 16. Someone made a comment about my mother's accent. I broke his nose. He got one good hit in before teachers pulled us apart. His hand came up to catch hers, his fingers warm against her wrist. First and last fight I ever had. I learned there are better ways to prove a point." Maya's breath caught. They were standing so close now, his hand still holding hers, his grey eyes intense on her face. "Maya," he said, his voice rough, "we should talk about this." "About what?" "About the fact that I can barely think straight when you're in the room. About how I look forward to these late nights more than anything else in my week. About how I keep finding excuses to touch you, to stand close to you, to make you smile because your smile is the best thing I've seen in years." Maya's heart was hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "Sebastian, I know it's inappropriate. You work for me. I'm your boss. There's a power dynamic that makes this complicated." His thumb traced a circle on her wrist, sending shivers up her arm. "But I need you to know that this, what we have, it's not just professional for me anymore. Maybe it never was." "It's not just professional for me either," Maya whispered. Sebastian's eyes darkened. "Then we have a problem." "Do we?" "Yes, because I have rules about workplace relationships. Rules that exist for good reasons, and I'm about to break every single one of them." He leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away, to tell him to stop. But Maya didn't want him to stop. She'd spent her whole life being careful, being invisible, playing it safe. And where had it gotten her? She was tired of being scared. She closed the distance between them, her lips meeting his in a kiss that felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff all at once. Sebastian made a sound low in his throat and pulled her closer, one hand tangling in her hair while the other settled at her waist. The kiss deepened, months of tension and denial pouring into it, and Maya forgot how to breathe, forgot everything except the taste of coffee on his lips and the solid warmth of his body against hers. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sebastian rested his forehead against hers. "That was a terrible idea," he said. "Probably. We should maintain professional boundaries." "Absolutely. I'm going to kiss you again. Please do." And he did, slower this time, thorough, like he was memorizing the taste of her. Maya's hands found their way into his hair, and she felt him shudder at the touch. When they finally pulled apart again, his tie was askew, and her carefully pinned hair had come loose. "We still have work to do," Sebastian said, but he didn't let her go. "We do. 2 weeks until the EU presentation." "I know. This complicates things." Maya pulled back enough to look at him. "Does it? We're good at what we do, Sebastian. We can keep the work separate from this." "Can we?" His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her lower lip. "Because I've been trying to keep it separate for weeks, and clearly that didn't work. Then we'll be careful. Professional during the day and at night." She trailed off, heat flooding her cheeks. Sebastian smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face. "At night we'll be very, very unprofessional." They did try to work after that, but concentration was impossible. Every time their eyes met, Maya felt electricity run through her. When Sebastian's hand brushed hers, reaching for a document, he didn't pull away immediately. When she leaned over to point at something on his screen, she felt him inhale sharply at her proximity. Finally, at 1 in the morning, Sebastian closed his laptop with decisive finality. "I'm taking you home. I can drive myself." "Maya, I haven't been able to focus on code for the past 2 hours because all I can think about is how you taste. I'm driving you home before I do something we'll both regret, like clearing this desk and finding out if you sound as good as I imagine when I—" He cut himself off, jaw clenching. "Come on!" The drive to Maya's apartment was silent but charged. Sebastian's hands were tight on the steering wheel, and Maya couldn't stop looking at his profile, at the way the streetlights cast shadows across his face. He walked her to her door, and Maya knew if she invited him in, he'd say no. That despite everything, he was trying to be honorable, to give her space to be sure. "Thank you for the ride," she said. "Maya." Her name sounded like a prayer on his lips. "Are you sure about this, about us? Because once we cross this line, I don't think I can go back. I don't want to go back. You should know something." He moved closer, crowding her against the door. "I don't do casual. If we do this, if we're doing this, then you're mine and I'm yours, and I don't share well." The possessiveness in his voice should have alarmed her. Instead, it sent heat pooling in her stomach. "I don't do casual either." "Good." He kissed her again, hard and claiming, then pulled away before it could deepen. "Go inside. Get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow." Maya floated into her apartment, her lips still tingling, her heart racing. She had just started something with Sebastian Harrington, something real, something intense, something that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Sleep well, Maya. Tomorrow we change the world. Tonight, you changed mine." She fell asleep with a smile on her face, his words replaying in her mind. The next 2 weeks were the most intense of Maya's life. By day, they were consummate professionals, presenting a united front to the team as they refined the final details of the demonstration. By night, they were something else entirely. Sebastian would pull her into his office, lock the door, and kiss her until she forgot her own name. They'd work for hours, the tension building until one of them would snap, and they'd find themselves tangled together on his couch, hands everywhere, breathing ragged. But they didn't sleep together. Sebastian insisted on that boundary, said he wanted to do this right, wanted to take her on an actual date first, rather than just falling into bed because they worked late and the chemistry was overwhelming. "I'm trying to be a gentleman," he said one night, when Maya was straddling his lap on the couch and his hands were under her shirt. "I don't want a gentleman," Maya gasped as his mouth found the sensitive spot on her neck. "Too bad. You have one anyway." He pulled back, his eyes dark with want. "When I finally have you, Maya, it's not going to be a quick thing between meetings. It's going to be all night in my bed, with nothing between us and nowhere else to be. You deserve better than stolen moments." The promise in his words made her shiver. After the presentation, I'm taking you away for a weekend, somewhere private, and then you're going to learn exactly how not gentlemanly I can be." The day of the EU presentation arrived like a reckoning. The demonstration was scheduled for 2 p.m. in the main conference room, with video links to representatives in Brussels, Lisbon, and Berlin. The entire executive team would be there, along with key engineers and stakeholders. It was the biggest presentation of Maya's life, and everything depended on it. She dressed carefully in a new suit Sebastian had insisted on buying for her, black and professional, but perfectly tailored. When she arrived at his office that morning, he was already there, looking devastating in a charcoal suit. "Ready?" he asked, terrified. "Good. Means you care." He pulled her close, kissed her forehead. "You're going to be brilliant. You always are. We're going to be brilliant. Partners, remember? Partners." He smiled, in every sense of the word. The presentation was a triumph. Maya explained the linguistic framework, while Sebastian demonstrated the technical implementation, and together they showed how the new system could translate complex idiomatic expressions with a nuance that had never been achieved before. The Portuguese examples that had started this whole journey were flawless. But more than that, they demonstrated how the same framework could be applied to any language, any context. The EU representatives were silent when they finished. Then the woman from Brussels started clapping, and suddenly everyone was applauding. Questions came rapid fire, technical and philosophical, and Maya and Sebastian fielded them as a seamless team. When it was over, when the video calls ended and the room cleared, Sebastian pulled Maya into an empty hallway and kissed her so thoroughly she forgot how to breathe. "We did it," he said against her lips. "We did it. The EU is going to sign. I could see it in their faces. This is going to put Harrington Tech a decade ahead of the competition. All because I spilled coffee on you." Sebastian laughed, a genuine sound of joy she'd never heard from him before. "Best coffee I've ever been served." He checked his watch. "I need to take a few calls, handle the business side. But tonight, pack a bag, we're leaving." "Leaving? I promised you a weekend away. I'm making good on that promise." His eyes darkened. "Say yes, Maya." "Yes." That night, Sebastian picked her up in his car, her small bag tossed in the back. He drove them out of Seattle, heading north toward the coast. The sun was setting by the time they pulled up to a modern glass house perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. "Welcome to my escape," Sebastian said. "No one knows about this place except my closest friends. No work, no interruptions, just us." The house was stunning, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows that brought the ocean inside. Sebastian gave her a brief tour, but Maya barely registered the details. All she could focus on was him, and the way he was looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "I should warn you," he said, backing her toward the master bedroom. "I've been thinking about this for weeks, about all the ways I want to touch you, taste you, make you mine. I might not be as controlled as I should be." "Good," Maya breathed. "I don't want you controlled. I want you real." Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. "Then that's what you'll get." The weekend passed in a haze of tangled sheets and whispered confessions, of Sebastian's hands learning every inch of her skin, and Maya discovering that beneath the cold CEO exterior was a man who was passionate, attentive, and completely devoted to her pleasure. They barely left the bedroom, ordering food they forgot to eat, watching the ocean through floor-to-ceiling windows while wrapped in each other. "I could stay here forever," Maya said Sunday morning, curled against Sebastian's chest while he traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "Then stay. We'll never leave. Your company might have something to say about that. Let them. I built Harrington Tech. They can survive without me for a while." He kissed the top of her head. "Besides, we just revolutionized their entire platform. I think I've earned a vacation." But reality came crashing back Monday morning in the form of a phone call that made Sebastian's expression go cold and closed. "I understand," he said into the phone, his voice the icy CEO tone Maya hadn't heard in weeks. "Set up the meeting for tomorrow. I'll handle it." He hung up and stared at the ocean for a long moment. "What's wrong?" Maya asked. "Chen Tech just announced a competing translation platform. They're claiming their system can do everything ours does, and they're launching in 2 weeks. Maya's stomach dropped. "That's impossible. We haven't even gone public with the full details of our framework." "No, but we did present to the EU, and apparently someone leaked information to Chen Tech's development team." Sebastian's jaw was tight. "There's going to be an internal investigation. Everyone who had access to the presentation materials will be questioned, including her." Maya felt cold despite the warm room. "You don't think I—" "Of course not. But others will. You're new. You came from nowhere, and you had complete access to everything," He pulled her close. "I'm going to protect you, Maya. Whatever happens, I won't let them use you as a scapegoat." But when they returned to Seattle that afternoon, Maya could feel the shift immediately. People who had been friendly now avoided her eyes. Dr. Chen looked at her with open suspicion. Even Trevor seemed uncertain, like he didn't know what to believe. The investigation was brutal. Maya was questioned for 3 hours by Harrington Tech's security team and an outside firm Sebastian had hired. They went through her computer, her emails, her phone records. She had nothing to hide, but the process felt violating, like everything she'd built over the past months was being torn down. "We found something," the lead investigator told Sebastian while Maya sat in his office that evening, exhausted and close to tears. Messages between Dr. Chen and a Chen Tech engineer. They'd been dating for 6 months. She passed along details about the framework. Maya's head snapped up. "Dr. Chen, but she hated me. She was so resistant to the whole project." "Best cover in the world," Sebastian said, his voice cold as ice. "Make yourself seem hostile to the ideas while feeding information to the competition." He looked at the investigator. "Fire her. Immediately. And I want our lawyers to pursue every legal option available." "Already in motion, sir." When they were alone, Sebastian pulled Maya into his arms. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. Everyone thought it was me." Maya's voice broke. "They all believed I could betray you like that." "Not everyone, not the people who matter." He tilted her chin up. "And this changes nothing between us, Maya. You're still the most brilliant person I know, and this is still your framework, your triumph." But something had shifted. Maya felt it over the next few weeks as the launch date approached. The team was professional but distant. Articles appeared in tech blogs speculating about Harrington Tech's security breach, about the mysterious linguist who'd appeared from nowhere. Some implied she was Sebastian's girlfriend, that she'd been hired for reasons that had nothing to do with her qualifications. "Ignore them," Sebastian said, but Maya could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he worked even longer hours than before. The launch of the new translation platform was scheduled for a Friday in October. Despite the drama with Chen Tech, the EU had signed their contract, and pre-orders from other companies were flooding in. It should have been a moment of pure triumph. Instead, Maya felt like she was watching it all from behind glass. The launch party was held in a Seattle hotel ballroom, hundreds of people celebrating Harrington Tech's achievement. Maya wore a dress Sebastian had bought her, midnight blue silk that made her feel like she was playing dress-up. She stood by his side as he gave speeches, shook hands, accepted congratulations, but she could feel the stares, hear the whispers. "Is that the waitress? I heard she stole the whole framework from researchers in Brazil." Sleeping her way to the top. Classic. Sebastian Harrington, of all people. I never thought he'd fall for something so obvious. Maya excused herself to the bathroom and locked herself in a stall, fighting tears. This was supposed to be the best night of her life. She'd helped create something revolutionary, something that would change how the world communicated. But all anyone could see was a gold digger who'd gotten lucky. A knock on the bathroom door made her freeze. "Maya, it's Helen." Sebastian's assistant. Maya wiped her eyes and emerged from the stall. Helen studied her with the same assessing gaze from that first day, but this time there was kindness in it. "I've worked for Sebastian for 8 years. I've seen him date models, actresses, CEOs, women who looked perfect on paper and left him cold." She stepped closer. "I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Like you're the air he breathes. They all think I'm using him. Let them think what they want. The people who matter know the truth. Trevor knows. I know. Richard knows." Helen squeezed her shoulder. "And Sebastian knows. That's all that should matter." Maya returned to the ballroom to find Sebastian searching for her, his expression tight with worry. When he saw her, relief flooded his face. "There you are. I thought—" He pulled her aside into a quiet alcove. "Talk to me. What's wrong?" "Nothing, I'm fine." "Maya, don't lie to me. Not you." "The dam broke. They all think I'm with you for your money, that I didn't earn my place here, that I'm just some opportunistic waitress who got lucky." Her voice cracked. "And maybe they're right. Maybe I am in over my head. Maybe I don't belong in your world." Sebastian's expression went from worried to furious in a heartbeat. "Who said that to you?" "It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Tell me who." "Sebastian, you can't fight everyone who doubts me." "Watch me." He cupped her face in his hands. "Listen to me, Maya Torres. You are the most brilliant, accomplished, extraordinary woman I have ever known. You earned your place here 100 times over. This framework, this launch, this success, it's yours as much as it's mine. More, because you're the one who saw what no one else could see." His thumbs brushed away tears she hadn't realized were falling. "And anyone who can't see that is a fool I don't need in my life or my company. They're going to keep saying these things. Then we'll prove them wrong, over and over, until they can't deny it anymore." He pressed his forehead to hers. "I love you, Maya. I should have said it before, but I'm saying it now. I love you, and I'm not letting you go because of small-minded people who can't imagine success coming from unexpected places." Maya's breath caught. "You love me? Completely, irrevocably, in a way that probably isn't healthy, but I don't care." He smiled, soft and genuine. "I fell in love with you the moment you looked me in the eye and told me my 50 engineers were missing the obvious. You were fearless and brilliant, and you made me remember why I built this company in the first place." "I love you too," Maya whispered. "So much it terrifies me." "Good, we'll be terrified together." He kissed her there in the alcove, soft and sweet, and when they pulled apart, Maya felt steadier. She could face the doubters, the whispers, the skeptics. As long as Sebastian believed in her, she could believe in herself. They returned to the party hand in hand, and this time when people stared, Maya held her head high. Let them talk. She knew the truth. 6 months later, Maya stood in front of an auditorium at Stanford University, looking out at 200 linguistic students and professors. The invitation to give a keynote speech had come as a shock, but Sebastian had insisted she accept. "You have something to say," he'd told her, "so say it." And now, as she clicked to the next slide showing the framework that had revolutionized Harrington Tech's translation platform, she felt a surge of confidence that still sometimes surprised her. "The key insight," she explained, "was understanding that perfect translation isn't about converting words. It's about preserving human intention across linguistic boundaries. Technology can facilitate that process, but only if we teach it to recognize the deeply human elements of communication, context, relationship, cultural nuance." Questions came afterward, thoughtful and engaged. A professor from Brazil asked about regional Portuguese variations. A graduate student wanted to know about applications for endangered languages. Maya answered them all, drawing on months of research and implementation, feeling truly in her element. After the presentation, as she was gathering her materials, a young woman approached. She looked nervous, clutching a worn backpack. "Miss Torres, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm a first-generation college student studying linguistics, and everyone keeps telling me it's not practical, that I should switch to computer science or business. But hearing your story, seeing what you've accomplished..." She trailed off. "It gives me hope." Maya's throat tightened. "What's your name?" "Sophia." Sophia, can I tell you something? A year ago I was serving coffee at a diner, wondering if my degree meant anything. I almost didn't speak up when I had the chance because I was so used to being invisible." She squeezed the girl's shoulder. "Don't wait for permission to use your voice. If you see a solution, say it. If you have knowledge, share it. The world needs people who understand how humans actually communicate, not just how machines process information. Even if people doubt me, especially then, the best revenge against doubt is undeniable competence. Maya smiled. Plus, it turns out that sometimes the people who doubt you the loudest are the ones who end up learning the most from you. After Sophia left, beaming, Sebastian appeared in the doorway. He'd sat in the back row for the entire presentation, and the pride in his eyes made Maya's heart skip. "You were magnificent," he said, pulling her close. "You're biased, completely. Doesn't make it less true." He kissed her forehead. "Ready to go? We have a dinner reservation." "Where are we going?" "You'll see." But instead of a restaurant, Sebastian drove them to a small art gallery in downtown Palo Alto. Maya looked at him quizzically as he led her inside, past stunning paintings and sculptures, to a private viewing room in the back. The room contained a single display, a book opened to the title page. "Linguistic Anthropology and the Human Context of Translation," Maya read aloud, "by Maya Torres." Her hands flew to her mouth. "Sebastian, what is this?" "Your book." "Well, the first copy anyway. The publisher rush-printed it for tonight." He moved to stand behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist. "You mentioned once that you wanted to write a book on linguistic anthropology. So I contacted some publishers, sent them your papers and presentations. Oxford University Press wants to publish it. They think it could become a standard text in linguistics programs." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "You did this for me?" "I did this because you deserve to have your ideas reach as wide an audience as possible. Because you're brilliant and the world should know it." He turned her to face him. "And because I love you, and I want to give you everything you've ever dreamed of." "You already have." Maya kissed him, soft and sweet. "You gave me a chance when no one else saw me. You believed in me when I barely believed in myself. You loved me not despite where I came from, but because of everything that journey made me." Sebastian's hand slipped into his pocket, and Maya's breath caught as he pulled out a small velvet box. "Speaking of giving you everything you've dreamed of." He dropped to one knee, and Maya's hands flew to her mouth. "Maya Catherine Torres, you walked into my life and changed everything. You made me remember that success isn't just about building empires or making billions. It's about creating something meaningful with someone who makes you want to be better. You're my partner, my equal, my favorite person in any room. Will you marry me?" The ring was stunning, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds that caught the light like captured stars. But Maya barely saw it. All she could see was Sebastian, this brilliant, intense, wonderful man who had seen past the waitress uniform to the woman beneath. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss that tasted like joy and promise and future. When they finally broke apart, both laughing and crying, Maya realized that the gallery walls were lined with people. Helen, Trevor, Richard, and a dozen other Harrington Tech employees, all applauding. "You planned this whole thing," Maya said, laughing through tears. "I wanted everyone who matters to be here when you said yes. Assuming you said yes. If you'd said no, I had a backup plan involving dramatically running into the ocean." "You don't live near the ocean here." "I would have found one. I was committed to the drama." He kissed her again. "Come on, we have a celebration dinner with everyone. And then tomorrow I'm taking you back to that glass house on the cliff, and we're not leaving for a week." The dinner was perfect, full of toasts and laughter, and the easy camaraderie of people who'd been through battles together. Trevor made a speech about how he'd known from day one that Sebastian and Maya were inevitable. Helen produced embarrassing photos of Sebastian looking love-struck during team meetings. Richard told stories about Sebastian's mother that made Maya understand even more deeply where Sebastian's passion for this work came from. As the evening wound down, Maya found herself on the restaurant's balcony, looking out at the city lights. Her father had been there for dinner, stronger now after his treatment had gone into remission. He'd hugged her tight and whispered that her mother would be so proud. Sebastian joined her, slipping his arms around her waist from behind. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how a year ago I was invisible, just another waitress serving coffee to people who looked through me. And now I'm here, engaged to you, publishing a book, giving talks at Stanford." She turned in his arms. "It doesn't feel real sometimes." "It's real. You made it real. I just gave you a platform. Everything else, that was all you, Maya. Your brilliance, your courage, your refusal to stay invisible." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "You were never invisible to me. From the moment you looked me in the eye and solved my impossible problem, you were the only thing I could see." "If you're so smart, then translate it," Maya quoted, smiling. "Best challenge you ever issued. Best coffee I ever had spilled on me." Sebastian laughed. "Think we should go back to Miller's Diner sometime for nostalgia?" "Definitely. I want to see Jennifer's face when I tell her I'm marrying you. She's going to say she called it." "She absolutely called it. She told me I was crazy not to take the job. Remind me to send her a very large tip." Sebastian pulled her closer. "Have I told you today that I love you?" "Only about a dozen times." "Not nearly enough, then." He kissed her, slow and thorough. "I love you, Maya Torres, my partner, my equal, my future wife, the woman who taught 50 engineers and one arrogant CEO that sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected places." "I love you too," Maya whispered. "My impossible, wonderful, perfectly imperfect love." They stood there in the California night, two people from different worlds who had built a bridge of language, trust, and love. Behind them, through the restaurant windows, their friends celebrated. Ahead of them, the future stretched bright and full of possibility. Maya had spent so long being invisible, convinced that quiet people from humble backgrounds were meant to stay in the shadows. But Sebastian had seen her, had believed in her, had loved her not despite her past, but because of the strength it had given her, and in seeing her he had taught her to see herself, not as a waitress or an imposter or someone who didn't belong, but as Maya Torres, linguist, innovator, author, and soon-to-be wife of the man who had changed her world by giving her the chance to change his. "Ready to go home?" Sebastian asked. Maya looked at her ring, catching the light, looked at the man beside her, solid and real and hers, looked at the future that had seemed impossible a year ago. "Ready," she said, and let him lead her toward the beginning of everything.